Hello everybody. So in this video, I'm going to do a little bit of a tutorial on how to install firstly the Nvidia drivers on Rocky Linux. So this is a Red Hat compatible Linux. It's version 9.6. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to install ComfyUI, which is a text-to-image generative AI program. Bear in mind that this is a completely fresh Rocky Linux installation, so I don't have anything activated other than essentially what is minimum features for a server. It's also headless as well, so I am doing this via SSH. So step one in this process is to basically install dependencies and various things that we need on a system. The first of these will be the Code Ready Builder repository. Another general one which is useful to have, I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but is the EPEL repository as well. This just contains these kind of out of Red Hat repository extras from the Fedora project. And of course, it goes without saying that every single time we add a repository or do one of these things, we have to do a DNF update or a DNF make cache. And that's just to make sure everything is in order and that the cache is updated. And yeah, with that said and done, we can then go on to our next stage. And the first real thing to install is essentially the tools to build the kernel modules and various dependencies that the drivers need. At this point, while we watch this happen, I should mention just basically what hardware I'm working on. I'm working on a Dell PowerEdge 720. It is quite an old machine. It has 48 threads of 96 gigabytes of RAM. It was obtained at the time for around 300 Canadian dollars, and I was able to acquire a GTX 3060 for roughly the same price, actually. So this would be a sort of home AI starter kit, essentially, for $600 all in, not including the hard drives. The other thing you'll see me do here is also install the development tools. Again, this is a completely fresh Rocky Linux installation, and I did not do a pre-install of the group development tools. So we'll go ahead and do that. It's over 200 packages, but it doesn't take a long time. We can now kind of go on to step two, which is to actually install the driver itself. We start by essentially adding the Nvidia repository for Red Hat Linux 9. And we'll obviously need to do a DNF update or make cache once we've done that. So now we can go ahead and actually just straight away install the driver with this one DNF command. You can actually ask it for different versions. I'm just going to go with the sort of latest, which is the default. And again, like I say, this should just work out of the box, at least on Red Hat 9. Now, I can also confirm that a similar set of instructions or a similar process does work on Red Hat 8. There's lots of different instructions around saying like, oh, you know, use this secondary repository, third-party repository to get the drivers, etc. You can do that. I didn't personally have any joy with that. And ultimately following the instructions as included on the Nvidia webpage was what got me what I wanted. One tell of whether you were successful at the end of this is if you can actually get the status of the graphics card once you've restarted the server. Now, bear in mind, your installer will seem to sort of stop here where it says running scriptlet for the kernel mod. That's expected. Every single time you update this driver or install it, you have to build the kernel module. And so that's what it's doing right now. That can take a little bit of time. Okay, and with this done, we can now go ahead and reboot the server. I always find that's just the cleanest way of doing things. I'm sure you could force load modules live, but I don't want to do that. So yeah, I'm just going to reboot and then ping the server so I can see when it comes back. Like I said, it is completely headless. There is the graphics card. There is no monitor plugged into it at all. All right, so we'll see it come back in a second. Okay, so here we are back a little while later, and it's replying to pings. So we can go ahead and SSH back into the server. And yeah, the first thing you can run to make sure things worked is Nvidia SMI. And here we can see the output. It shows that indeed the driver loaded for a GTX 3060. It has 12 gigabytes of RAM, and it's currently doing nothing. No running processors on the graphics card. So that's pretty good. The other way you can do it is to do lsmod Nvidia, and it will show you what modules are loaded, etc., and currently running. And so this there indicates that there's a whole bunch of Nvidia stuff going on in the background. Okay, so from here we can go to stage 3, which is to install ComfyUI, which is our text-to-image generative AI platform or package. And so the first thing we need to do is actually to install a slightly newer repository version of Python. I believe Rocky 9 comes with a couple of different versions of Python. I'm not sure if the default is 3.6. All I do know is that the default version, which is kind of pre-installed, is too old. And so what we go ahead and do is install, in my case, 3.12, or you can just get the latest one. To go along with our Python installation, we obviously also need to install pip. Kind of forgot to do it in the first place, so we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that that's done, what we can then go ahead and do is just git clone the ComfyUI repository. Now, there is a few different methods of installing ComfyUI. It's pretty easy to do whether you're on a Windows or Linux or even Mac, to be fair. But the process I'm going to do is using the git repository cloning. And so there we go, we've cloned a repository. And then the next thing to do is to create a virtual environment of our Python installation. And the reason we do this is just because you can then source that environment and it stays in its own little packaged area. It doesn't interfere with any of the packages you've got on the system. So the next step is then to source the activate script from the virtual environment. And then we can go ahead and use pip install -r requirements.txt. So there's a requirements file. And then this will go ahead and auto download and install the requirements. You can see, if you're very keen-eyed, that I already downloaded a bunch of stuff, and this is because I actually made a mistake and I tried to install with the default version of Python. It did work, it just gave me a bunch of errors where it was like, this thing might not work correctly. And so I went back and did it correctly. Once we're done, you're faced with a huge list of things that it went ahead and installed, and we'll just clear the screen. The next little thing we need to do, if you're indeed on Linux, is to just make a firewall port exception. The default port is 8188 on TCP, and you can see that I already did it. Now, if you're going in on localhost, so let's say if you've got a Linux installation with a monitor, you don't need to. You can just ignore this step. I'm going in via my Mac since I'm having Comfy listen to everything on my local network. Do remember, by the way, to restart or reload your firewall. This is a common mistake which I always make. Now we should be about ready to go. So we can start the process with Python main.py --listen. The --listen tells it to listen to more than just localhost. So it sets the bind address to 0.0.0.0. And so I can see it on local network. The good indication here of things working correctly is it tells me the correct version of Python. So my virtual environment is enabled. And it also detects the graphics card, and then it tells me to go and look at the UI as per the address. So when you first go to ComfyUI, you will typically be met with a splash screen or this thing of here are a bunch of templates you can use. Comfy takes a little bit of getting used to. I think it's very, very powerful though, so it's worth learning. The next thing you'll need to do is download an actual model. I'm not going to show you how to do that, but if you do search, you'll find links to various web pages and community efforts where you can get different models. And so if I just click go here on the default template, this is real time. The 3060 is pretty good. You can obviously get faster graphics cards to do this. I think it's pretty fast, mostly because my entry into generative AI was via a 1080 Ti, where the floating point processor is something like 4 times slower than the bog standard 3060. So there we go. The other thing about what I would say if you're getting into this is more VRAM is really good. Most AI applications or programs can do clever things where they offload to memory and reload onto video cards, but that whole process slows things down, obviously. Okay, so the next little thing I'm going to do is like step 4, if you will, is a little tool for ComfyUI, which I think everyone that uses Comfy should use. It makes things a heck of a lot easier. This is Comfy Manager. And I say it's essential because, as I say, it allows you to install other modules which people have made for Comfy, different toolkits, various features which are not necessarily included with the base installation. It can also allow you to download models such as upscaling models, etc., with one click, and you don't have to mess about with the terminal. So to install it, we basically will go and download the repository. But again, what we need to do is we need to download the repository inside the custom nodes folder. And so once it's downloaded, we simply restart the server, and Comfy will just go ahead and incorporate this into its UI. So like I say, if you click on the little blue icon at the top there, you will get this little pop-up where you can go ahead and install different modules. This is really, really useful because if you say, for example, download somebody else's workflow, or if somebody sends you a file which has a workflow embedded in it, so most PNG files direct from an AI application will have a workflow inside, you can drag and drop that into the window, and what will happen is it will pop up and say, oh, you're missing these things, do you want to install them? And it will just typically work. Yeah, and I think that's about it. So with that said, that was 15 minutes or so on how to install first the drivers and then ComfyUI. Obviously it takes a little bit more time to do this, and obviously people will probably follow a guide rather than my video, but I just want to use this as a platform to say, hey, look, this is possible. And also for everyone else, if you've got a graphics card which is capable and you want to try and do some text to image stuff, you probably can for free.